Friendly reminder, tomorrow you have a vocab quiz on 11 through 20. Then on Wednesday, despite the fact that we are not doing a primary today, does not mean you are not without a, let me try that again. You have a list quiz on Wednesday, even though we're not doing a primary today. So make sure you are ready for that because we finished all of our content. This week we are doing policy making. That should be on the heading of your notebook is policy making. The first thing we're discussing is economic policy. So, you need to put a big star. The economy is the number one issue Americans vote on. The economy is the number one issue Americans vote for. So, if you are a president who has a very large, robust economy, you're going to get reelected. If you are a president who has a very weak economy, you're going to be voted out. Okay? So, the economy is the number one issue for Americans. You have to know that. Okay? So, when we are talking about it, you need to know that Democrats, write this down, Democrats are all about government interference in the economy. What are some ways Democrats interfere with the economy? What are some things that they could do to interfere? Ebba, what's something a Democrat could do? The what? Well, not monetary policy, because monetary policy is all the thing. But what do they actually manipulate inside the monetary policy? Interest rates, manipulation of the interest rates. There you go. They can implement what else? What's another thing they can do economically to try to stimulate the economy? They can do stimulus checks. Stimulus checks have been used throughout history. Okay, but when is the most famous example of stimulus checks being written? Yeah, COVID. Your parents received 3 or 4 stimulus checks that ranged between $500 and $1,800. And they could do whatever they wanted with the money. You were supposed to spend the money immediately to stimulate the economy because it's called a stimulus check. But the big problem is most of the Americans did what with it? Saved it, which does not stimulate the economy. So not only does it not stimulate the economy, we also go into debt giving out stimulus checks. So because most Americans did not spend it, we went further into debt because of the stimulus checks. So anyway, Democrats are going to manipulate interest rates. They're going to do stimulus checks, and they are expansion of entitlement programs. When I say expansion of entitlement programs, what does that actually mean, Will?
Like programs to help people.
Yeah. So what would be an example? Like a definitive example?
Welfare.
Yes, welfare, food stamps, those types of things. Expanding those programs, giving them more money, more funding. Republicans, write it down. Republicans are anti-interference. However, they like to do one thing. What is the Republicans? When the economy is really struggling, what do they always suggest, Roth?
I don't think
Oh, well, I'd love to hear.
Social Security.
No, they just don't want to touch it because their voting base is so passionate about it because most older Americans are Republicans. Old people really care about the Social Security, so they don't touch it for that. What are Republicans all about? When the economy is struggling, what do they want? Tax cuts. Write it down. Their big impact and what they think should be done is tax cuts. Now, when I say the word tax cut, Ava, what is the point of a tax cut? Don't say to pay less in taxes. Like, we get that. But what is the point? What are the Republicans hoping to get out of a tax cut?
They're not as in debt to the government, or they're not giving as much to the government.
Sort of. Okay, because Republicans do work for the government. Hate it?
They want more money to spend.
Yes. Okay, tax cuts are about allowing businesses to reinvest their money in expansion, which will cause more people to be hired. So the whole reason why Republicans scream tax cuts, because they believe that if we give businesses tax cuts, that businesses are going to take all the money that they saved and invest in their company, and that'll make their company more profitable so they can expand more and they can hire more people, and that's how it'll improve society. Does it pay out? No. We're living in the perfect time of this. We've had lower taxes in the last 20 years than we had in the previous 40 years. And right now, we have the largest gap between wages and corporate stimulus packages ever in history. So what have people done with their taxes? No, they haven't actually. They give it in bonuses to the top tier, the top 2% of their company. They give it in like big bonus projects, and that's how they get major. And they've inflated their own paychecks. So regular people like me aren't getting that much money extra. We haven't had a real big pay increase, but people at the top have made significant gains in wealth in order to attract more people and like stuff like that. So there are pros and cons to everything. Can we agree? Okay, so when we talk about the Democratic thing, which is to interfere with the money, if you interfere too much, what happens to the economy? Crumbles and burns and explodes. So things can go very poorly in both ways. Okay, major terms you have to know. First one is fiscal policy. So I've already taught you fiscal policy. We're going to add a little bit more layer of complexity to it. Fiscal policy is how much the country makes and spends in 12 months. Okay? It's called revenue and expenditures. You have to know those two terms. Revenue is how much you make. So what is one way the U.S. government makes revenue? What is the revenue of the United States, Ryson? Taxes. Write it down. You need to know that when we talk about revenue for the United States, we're talking about taxes. That is like 90% of their revenue. 10% comes from buying like bonds and stuff from the government. But most of it comes from taxes. Expenditures, and you need to know that term. Expenditures are costs that have to go out the door. Like your parents have expenditures and revenue. Their revenue is they go to work every single day and they get a check. Their expenditures are their mortgage payments, their grocery bill, their credit card bill, their car payments. All of those are expenditures. So what are some expenditures that the U.S. government has, Elizabeth? Fine. That's a very small sliver. Paying government employees, fine. Ava? Military spending is the number one thing. We spend more money on that than any other country in the world. Now, quick question. Is our military spending on people standing on a base, or is it on technology? Yeah, we spend most of it on technology. Okay, but we are the largest spender of military, and that is where most of our money goes to. What's the second thing we spend lots of money on? Andrew?
Education.
No. Oh my God, that was so cute. Yeah, no. We're like middle of the pack for spending money on education and compared to the GDP. Nope. What do you got? Entitlement programs, aka Social Security. Entitlement programs, Social Security is the biggest one of those. Okay, Social Security takes over 3/4 of our entitlement money. Okay, so when we're talking about fiscal policy, we are talking about revenues, we're talking about expenditures, and we're talking about different things that different costs our government has to have. Okay, now, Democrats prefer, and this is all under fiscal policy, Democrats prefer a progressive tax policy. What is, oh, Chase is on my wall too. Why didn't you say anything, man? I wasn't trying to ignore you. It's hard to remember who's in what class. Chase, what is a progressive tax policy?
I don't know.
Oh, come on. AOC is super famous for saying it all the time. What would a Democrat want more of? Amelia? Taxing the rich. Write it down. Taxing the rich. A progressive tax policy is taxing the rich. So, depending on your income, dictates how much you pay in taxes. If you're poor, you love this. What is the benefit of taxing the wealthy more than the poor? What's the benefit? There's a benefit to all these things. So don't say, well, it makes people happy. Okay, that's not really how we do it. Why is progressive taxing, why do Democrats support it as hard as they do, Toby?
They'll get one.
No. I mean, ish. Roth?
It like stops like the poor people from being like stuck in poverty and like gives them
There
a
you go.
chance to grow.
There you go. It allows the lower quartile to keep more money in their pocket. Write it down. So, progressive taxing allows the lower quartile to keep more money in their pocket, which will help them escape poverty. The other major argument is, okay, who uses the American infrastructure more? Samantha Bennett or Amazon? Yeah. Think of all those trucks that are constantly driving around just Tampa, for God's sake. Oh my God, the chick next door who lives across from me, like our houses look at each other, she bought so much stuff on Amazon, it filled her front porch. Like there was one guy, I think he emptied out the whole Amazon truck on her front porch. Like it wasn't like, oh wow, there's like 5 or 6 packages. I'm saying she ordered like 25, 30 packages. She's not a professional shopper. Some of it was for work, but she embarrassed. I had to ask. I was like, what the hell? Did you just buy all of Amazon? And she was like, well, embarrassingly, some of it is for work, but some of it is not. We're just out of diapers and all these other big box items. It was wild. That little Amazon man, in the terms of Hayden, was fighting for his life, trying to get the boxes out of his damn car and onto this porch. Anyway, with that being said, we can all agree that Amazon uses the road system more than we do. So they put a lot of wear and tear on the roads, which means who should be paying for it? Amazon. That's what progressive taxing system is really referring to. Is that if you're using the road system and the infrastructure and you're benefiting from all these things more than the average citizen, then you should pay more in order to fix it. And that's what progressive taxing is all about. Now, the criticism of it, which is, of course, the Republicans, so write down Republicans, they want to decrease taxes. Why do Republicans, what's the argument for decreasing taxes? Hayden?
Because like they're saying that these big companies are putting in so much money into the economy and stuff, so they shouldn't tax it.
Okay, but what you're correct. What you're saying is not wrong. But what is the actual argument? How is it going to benefit the economy?
Because they're able to,
By lowering your taxes, what's the benefit to the
they're
economy?
able to put more money into it, like they have more money to spend.
They'll have more money or won't have more money?
They will have.
They will have. There you go. By having more money in people's hand, they can stimulate the economy. Write it down. The argument for cutting taxes is that if people have more money in pocket, they're going to spend more, creating more jobs. Okay? That is their big argument. Which does make sense. If I gave you $100, how much of it are you going to save?
None.
Oh, shit.
Absolutely none of it.
Quite frankly, that yeah.
I would spend all of it like immediately in one day.
Yeah. I would go crazy on Princess Polly. Those Sephora.
What the hell is a Princess Polly?
Such cute clothes.
I love
Amazon.
spending money.
All right.
I love spending money.
Moving forward, we'll be getting to capitalism in a few moments, but we'll relive that quote. All right, monetary policy. Here we go. Your monetary policy is the way the government influences the economy through money supply and interest rates. When I say money supply, it's as easy as it sounds. Don't make it complicated. Ebba, what is money supply? Huh? No. Money supply. Keep it simple, stupid, Ebba. It's what? I don't know. You're talking softer and softer as you go, girl. What? No. Natalie, what's money supply?
The supply of money.
Which means what?
I don't know the money we have.
Yeah, the money is circulating. Money supply is how much money is circulating. And everything is controlled by the Federal Reserve. You have to know that. The Federal Reserve regulates everything. Who prints money? Federal Reserve. Who burns money? Federal Reserve. That's not how things work.
Wait, is it like the Federal Reserve is in charge of monetary policy and then Congress is in charge of fiscal
No, thank God. No,
I
no,
thought
no,
that-
no. Okay. Your fiscal policy. okay, is slightly managed by Congress because they get to pass laws because they control the purse. But that is more like just tax collection, which is only half of the equation of fiscal policy. But they do get to control that. Monetary policy, which is the amount of money floating around, and interest rates are all controlled by the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve Executive Board, and you need to write that down, are in charge of interest rates. So if you decide to go to school to be an economist, which I know is high on your list, exactly. If you go into school to be an economist, the top tier that you can be is the Fed chair. That is, for the first time we have a woman, and don't ask me what her name is, I cannot think of it, but I can see her. She's got this really severe pixie haircut. She's like in her 60s. She's worked for Stanford University for the last like 35 years. She's like the preeminent force. Like she's a beast at it. Anyway, the Federal Reserve Board are the ones who make the decision about interest rates. All of this is done through the Federal Reserve, who is also responsible for printing our money. Now, our Federal Reserve also burns money as well to keep the perfect amount of money in circulation. It's just like Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton every single year releases a new collection of like leatherware and clothing and all that stuff. If it doesn't sell at the end of the season, you know what they do with it?
Cut it.
They slash it and then they burn it in Italy. They literally light it on fire in order to keep prices at the same. Because when we're talking about market economies, we're talking about supply and demand. If there are tons of Louis Vuitton purses wandering around, the price of Louis Vuitton goes down. Like, are you going to pay $1,800 for a Coach purse? Hell no, because everyone has a Coach purse at this point. With that being said, with a Louis Vuitton bag, they're expensive because people will pay that much because there's not that many of them, which we'll get to. All right, laissez-faire we've talked about. Keynesian, underneath monetary policy, I want you to write Keynesian economics. Keynesian economics is the policy that we use. That is the one that manipulates interest rates. How to make those decisions. Okay. So, economic systems. Your next heading is market economy.
Is this still under economic
Yep.
policy?
Yep, only thing I'm talking about today is economic policy. Tomorrow I'll do social. Okay, economic market economy. It is a system where individuals and corporations make the big decisions. A market economy is synonymous for what other term? No. Oh, God, no. Capitalism. A market economy is a synonym for our sake for capitalism. Capitalism and market economy are one and the same. They're nicknames. Okay? There's a bit of a difference when you get to college. You'll discover it, but for AP, you don't need to know. Okay, so it is an economic system where individuals and corporations, not the government, come up with prices. Okay, the government is left out, which is the laissez-faire kind of component to it. Okay, a market economy is all about supply and demand. What is supply, Lily? When I say supply and demand, what does the supply mean?
Like making stuff.
Sort of. How much exists of it? Write it down. Supply is how much of a product exists. Supply means how much of a product exists. So, if you have a lot of supply, what happens to the price? Decreases. If there's a lot of something, it becomes less valuable because there is so much. Write it down if you don't get it. If there's a very small supply of it, what happens to the price? Goes up. Okay. So, what is something in 2023 that we have a lot of that doesn't have a lot of value? I feel a little targeted here. Glasses, glass. Let's just say glass. Glass, not glasses. I feel very targeted. Glass. Glass in 2023 is very, very cheap because it's easy to make. All you have to do is superheat sand and you can make it. Back in the 1200s, glass was very expensive because the supply was very low. Okay, what is something in 2023 that has a very high value because its supply is very small? Oil works. Birkin is true. Weird example, but yes. Huh? Wood?
It's expensive right now. The price of wood is up.
Sure, I cannot
If you
confirm.
wanted to like buy plywood,
Okay.
That is true. That is true. That's more of a supply.